It doesn't really matter because we never say anything worthwhile to begin with. Oh, I've got to log into Facebook. To stream to Facebook, they require me. I suppose that's pretty reasonable. You don't just, hey, my phone just told me I'm going live in case I didn't know.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Otherwise, you just, what? I'm going, you didn't know.
Oh, you're going live. What am I?
I'm going live? Yeah, that's it.
Are you alive?
Yeah, that's it. You're in bed and then like you get the message.
Why are you alive?
Okay. It's told me that my session has expired, the one that I was using 2 seconds ago. And we will try that again.
Well, you do short sessions.
Go live.
Have you seen the new Oscar, by the way?
Doesn't it look rather similar to the old Oscar?
It
I
does.
know you're a huge fan of it, so
I think it's brilliant. Actually, I saw it, and they changed the things that were not right in the previous one. I think it looks really, really nice.
Let's save that for another show because I'd like to know what you didn't think was right with the last one, but not today, because today,
not
Max,
today,
I'm paying no attention because I'm just talking.
Yeah.
Whilst I try to finish the setup, they've got to come up. This is a fault with the system. They've got to come up with a way that I can actually type the information in before I go live. You've got to basically, as you go live, as you hit the live button, you've then got to type everything in, which kind of like I'd like to do that before, so that So I'm prepped. I've done the la 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 and all that kind of stuff before we go on. So today we're going to be asking the question that everybody who started out in coffee, who wants to have, anybody who wanted to collect a genuine Rolex, but they don't have, thousands of pounds, and they want to know whether that one that guy from Thailand was offering them for $25 was in fact genuine. In the same vein, we are asking, we're going to try and help those people who say, I don't have thousands to spend on an espresso setup. I've got $500, 350 pounds, or spondoolies, as possibly what? Only Fools and Horses, my friend. Only Fools and Horses got me out of customs in Macedonia. Del Boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's another story.
It's
so 350 spondoolies or $500. Can you get an espresso setup that is going to work? And so we set ourselves that challenge, feverishly worked for minutes to find the answer.
Yeah, which is no,
not really, but we know.
And because we always wonder, why is that always everyone going on about these coffee machines that cost thousands and thousands and well, because that's how you
that's
do
what it costs. That's what it costs to get into the game. But here's the thing. I think this is a valid question, and I'll tell you why. Is because you're going to make a mistake when you get started. So my ex is starting to learn how to drive, and of course she wants me to give her driving lessons in my car, which I'm nervous about because it's my car. It's not a starter clown car. It's not one of those little dodgem things that you go and bounce around off the walls.
And it's difficult to start driving on a Rolls-Royce Phantom. I mean, we all know that.
It doesn't have power steering, not the classics.
Yeah.
No, exactly. So I've said to her, listen, darling, you cannot have the Phantom for the weekend to drive around the parking lot. They're not the easiest things to park. But going back to coffee machines, I think the valid point is that whatever they buy, they're going to change it.
Yes.
So actually, the way I'm coming at this is what should people buy that will allow them to learn, and then to find out if this is really something they want to invest in and grow, or something that is just a passing fancy, and actually they're just going to keep going down to the coffee shop.
Exactly. And also, I've actually seen recently in one of the groups on Facebook, I think it was a troll job, to be honest, someone that posted, I just got these. What grinder should I use? Because I can't get the coffee to go through at
recording. Sorry, for the people who are listening to the recorded version of this, just go back to the live version and just see what we said for the last 5 minutes.
Yep. So I've just seen something on one of the Facebook groups, and I think that's a troll job. And a guy said, I just got these, but I can't get the coffee to come through at a normal speed. It's too fast. What grinder should I get to it? And he was sounding like he had no idea, absolutely no idea about coffee making, and the coffee machine that he just got was La Marzocco Linea Mini. Now, that means that someone's just spent about £3,500 on a coffee machine.
£3,500. I'm just wondering,
Without
do you have his
knowing.
details? Because he might get bored and want to get rid of it.
No,
might give
actually, I
him a
want
very
him
good price.
as my best friend because he clearly has more money than sense. But anyway,
or not, because everything's relative. Now, if you had $1 million in the bank,
if I had $1 million in the bank, I wouldn't buy a Ferrari to learn to drive, would I?
You wouldn't, but I probably would.
Yes. And then you're going to what?
I'm going to either get bored of it or crash it or put it into reverse at 70 miles an hour or something like that.
Precisely. So should you actually spend all of, thousands in a coffee machine to start with? No, you shouldn't. And then you say, okay, I have a £350 budget, $500 budget to start. Mm-hmm. What do I buy? And that's what the show is about today. So, not very much.
Well, no, not very much is the answer. No. But actually, I mean, it depends. So if you go out here's the thing, you're going to have to buy secondhand, at least the machine, right?
Yes. You're gonna actually, that's a sensible thing to do.
It is.
Because you buy it at a certain price. And if you're a little savvy, because you have to scope a little around, and you don't buy the cheapest, you don't buy the most expensive. You buy in the mean, so in the average, and you buy it at that price, and you will resell it at the same price. So technically, it didn't cost you much.
Yep, it's a very low bar entry, but also I think you will get obviously more for your money at if you're looking at the secondhand market. It does limit you on choices.
Yes,
but you're limited at that price, and I just nevertheless I think it's not so important at this point, at this price point, at this stage of your journey where you're starting out.
Mm-hmm.
Really getting hung up on the sort of nuances and features of different machines. That's not going to be where you're going to get stuck. So should we dive in and start? Because you and I took very different approaches. I mean, similar in some way, but different in many ways.
Actually, I've seen a connecting line between both of our choices, and I think it makes a lot of sense. There are two main things. First of all, I would want, first of all, to define what is the bare bone minimum that you need to start. So the coffee machine, first of all, obviously, a grinder that is good enough to make espresso, and a tamper. That's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Tamper, you can really get away with the plasticky one that you get from the coffee machines. They are terrible, but they're tampers. So it's not the end of the world, technically. But you can always spend about £20 on a tamper. That's more or less what you should be looking for. There are tampers that cost thousands of monies, and they spring-loaded, preloaded, so you get the same even pressure. That's bullshit.
It's unnecessary. It's not that it's bull. It is kind of bullshit, but people thought for a long time. People thought for the science sort of bore it out for a long time that it actually made a big difference, and so this market was built around it. But now they kind of looked at it and thought, actually, distribution, and consistency is more important than. How
tamping it very, very hard. You can sit on it, or tamping it lightly is exactly.
It makes very little difference.
The coffee is going to come out at the same speed. There's no way you can actually compact a coffee pack so much that the coffee doesn't go through if it's ground properly.
It's more about keeping it level, right? It's about leveling it. But then a leveling tool will do that just as well.
Exactly. And there are actually leveling tools that double as leveling tool and tamper. Anyway, so you need a tamper. You do need that. You need a grinder, and you probably want a grinder that is manual, because
you're going to learn something. You want to learn something.
Is the cheapest option as well.
What do you mean by manual? I mean a hand grinder.
Hand grinder, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it's the cheapest option. There are some decent ones. There is the Time More Chestnut. I think it's that's about £200 already.
No, it's not. It's not. No, not the C2. No, but
Okay.
you're kind of being a bit naughty and stealing my shopping list.
I
Let's
think that actually that's the only one that can go down to espresso.
yeah.
And
At that price point, yeah.
yeah, because if you have 350 pounds, you don't really have a choice for a grinder because the grinder will basically eat up all of your budget.
Or will you? You haven't yet come onto my choices.
That
Let's
is,
kick it off because we're teasing
yeah.
people. Let's kick off and actually start and get to the meat of it. And so right away we're going to get to the meat of it. But first,
But first,
I'd just like to say, don't forget we're giving away a Peak water filter. So here's a great way. Oh, what a segue. I should have done this. I should have done this as a segue. A great way to get ahead of your budget is get stuff for free. And actually, I've just thought this is actually a great way because you know what? There are a lot of people I've noticed that are giving stuff away for free in competitions.
Mhm.
So enter all the competitions. You're bound to win something,
Eventually.
and that can get you started. But we normally give away a kilo of beans each month. This month, we're giving away the Peak water filter, which is right here. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do, Max? Just because
What are
we're
you gonna
talking about this right now, I'm going to throw in a whole kit. I feel like one of those. I'm really like one of those
Wow.
used secondhand car salesmen. Not only do you get the Peak water filter, by the way, no purchase necessary for this. This is a new water filter. We're giving it away just because I've actually got these things as sort of gifts that we, instead of beans, because I wanted to change things up a little bit. We give away something each month just to keep people happy. I've also got. I haven't opened this. Bought this from Amazon. One of these. This is exactly the same one as I use. A coffee distribution tool. It's a no-name. It's nothing special, but anything special.
Yeah.
And a Motta tamper. Here we will be including this in there as well. So I'll package this all up and send them off. And you don't have to spend any money. You don't have to do anything. You just go over to our site. There'll be a link down below. It's one of these sort of solid, heavy.
Oh, that's
aluminum.
really good, actually.
Yeah, they are actually pretty good. I've got rid of all my other tampers. I just use a solid one that came with Rocket. I really like those now. So in order to win that, you just enter your email address, and that's it. That's all you need to do. You'll be included in all future giveaways, and we don't spam you. We don't share your information with anybody either. So that's worth a go. That's one way to get started. So where did I start? Why did we set the price point at that level? I actually set it at that level because it then precluded us from buying pretty much anything new.
Yeah.
In terms of espresso
prices,
machines.
and everything starts at 400-ish.
Look, but you know what? It's so easy to say, look, what would you buy for £1,000? Get started. Right. Okay. Now I've got lots of choices. But let's say you're not really ready to throw in £1,000. And if you kind of don't like what you're doing, you want to get most of your money back. What are your choices then? And what's your price point going to be? 350 quid. I mean, to put that in perspective, 350 quid is going to get, what kind of car would you get for 350 quid?
Kind of what?
Car would you get?
Car.
Yeah. I was going to say like the one like the Trotters, that little 3-wheel, but actually those are quite expensive now.
No, those are expensive. You're probably going to get a car that someone's been murdering it.
You would get a total jalopy that would cost you more than 350 quid to get it on the road. I mean, there's not much you can buy these days of value for 350 quid, but you can actually get a really, I think, pretty decent start in espresso for that $500. And here's how you're going to do it. So I'm going to start off with the espresso machine that I would choose. And I'll tell you why I'm going to choose it. You're not going to like it.
No, I'm not going to like it.
You're not going to like this at all. I would go with a Sage Barista Express. And I'll tell you, and I know, and Max is going different colors. Maybe I can share my screen. Here's one that I got on Facebook Marketplace. I actually find Facebook Marketplace oftentimes to be a better place to go than eBay. eBay for coffee machines, I don't know. They tend to be marketed a little bit at the maybe less savvy, or I don't know. People seem to put their prices a little bit higher for some reason. I'm not sure
because
why.
you have to pay the fees of eBay, and you have to include the shipping. It's
I'm not really sure why, but anyway, so
Yeah.
this is a machine that has hardly been used. You can take a look at it. It's in really great condition.
Mm-hmm.
It's got everything built in. It's got a steamer, it's got the grinder, and it's
Mm-hmm.
obviously got the espresso function. The Barista Express is really well known. Water
Yep.
tank at the back. It's a relatively small item, easy to ship. He's even throwing in there some Cafesa, which I was going to try to and spec out separately, but that's thrown in as well. So you're basically getting here a complete kit for £250.
Yeah.
Now, I actually want to add some things to
The
this.
risk of there is a risk on it though. You don't know what it looks like inside.
Well, hopefully the fact that he's got Cafesa shows that this guy, and he hasn't used it that much, he says, which I can believe looking at it. But you're right; those are the sorts of things to look for.
Yeah, because you can actually. I mean, I have had coffee machines in my hands and opened them. People saying, "Oh, I've descaled it very often," and then you realize that they think that descaling it is using Cafizza.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that there is no such thing as a total free lunch. And if you're going to go for a secondhand machine of any kind, then you're going to risk there's going to be something wrong with it. So obviously, caveat emptor, and look carefully at the history of the individuals, etc. This chap here wants it to be collected in person, so you have a chance to make a coffee, to look at it before you buy it, which I'd always recommend in any case. But I think this is a great place to start. And I'm not going to go on about the rest of my choices, but this will give you what you need. Actually, even if you didn't do anything else, this would give you a starting point. But there's more that
you can actually, because there's a tamper in there already included, so you don't need the tamper in that one, and the tamper comes off.
Yeah, it's kind of a self-started kit. It's not a bad way to get started. New, I'm not sure how much they are new, but they're quite a bit more than that. I think
four something. I think
400-ish pounds.
Yeah.
So right in your 250 quid, you're kind of getting a ready to get started kit. You just need to look and keep your eyes open. Yeah. Max, over to you. What would be your start?
So for me, I'm actually going to go for something very similar, but they are more rare than unicorn tears. I would actually go for a second-hand Gaggia Pyros. Is the one I have, and it's an extremely capable machine. It's basically a Gaggia Classic, but they've put a grinder with it. So again, it's a compact grinder and coffee machine at the same time, so you don't need a grinder. And that's a very capable grinder. It's actually conical burr, like the Sage. I think it's a bit faster. It's a very messy grinder, but it will actually get you where you need to be. And it does very good espresso. It's capable of grinding very good for espresso. I've actually tried a Sage, that particular model, and I think that it struggles to make espresso with normal portafilters. If you use the pressurized portafilters, it's okay.
Can I just say there's a tip with those.
You need to re-zero the grinder. So you
have to re-zero the grinder, and it's not that hard to do, but most people don't do that.
It's not, but remember, we're talking of people that is going to be their first coffee machine, the entry level. So that is something that would put me off. However, it's provided with a pressurized portafilter, which makes a difference. The Pyros can do the same. I think it's also can be used with a pressurized portafilter. It's a good start. But if you're using actually a pressurized portafilter, you don't need the Pyros. You can actually get a much cheaper Gaggia Evolution or a Gaggia Espresso, and those come for about £150.
I don't think we want to use pressurized portafilters. I think this is kind of against the point of the exercise. People want to be grinding fresh beans and making espresso.
Yes, you can grind fresh beans and make espresso with a pressurized portafilter. You can do that.
Why would you want to do that?
Well, because you have a coffee machine that is set at 15 bars.
Oh, because of the pressure setting on them. Right.
But if you don't blow all your budget on the coffee machine, then you can spend some money. Say, for example, you get a second-hand coffee machine, like a Gaggia Classic or a Gaggia Paros, if it hasn't been modified yet, you have to modify the overpressure valve, and that is something that you can get someone to do. You can do it yourself. It's up to you. But
It's actually very easy to do. I've done it, but the
it
thing
is
is,
very easy.
I want to stay away from doing that because again, this is the guy's first introduction. So somebody or girl's first introduction into, hey, I'd like to, and I'm thinking of my sister here. My sister asked me this question, except she was incredibly difficult. She's like, but I don't want anything that's plastic. I was like, well, because you want, save the planet. And I was like, well, okay, you want to spend, 300 quid, but you don't want any plastic. That's going to be tricky. Actually, you ended up pushing her towards one of those sort of glass type Chemex type things. Actually, she's quite happy with.
Oh yeah, those are amazing.
Yeah, but if you're going to get a coffee machine, you want espresso coffee, particularly. I think the objective has to be that they're not going to have to pull the machine apart on their first day to start putting in different valves and tubes.
Exactly. So for me, a pressurized portafilter wouldn't be a crime. Actually, it's going to extract very good coffee. It's going to make very good coffee. It's going to be a weird frothy coffee. It's not going to be a proper crema.
It's not going to be really good coffee, but it's going to be.
But you know
what? It's going to be. It's going to be okay. I have to say. Remember, when we go back, we should have one of those little remember. And we sort of that goes back in the mist thing. Special effects, if I can be bothered to add it. A number of episodes ago, and I had that coffee company in Belgium send me a bunch of coffees to try, and they gave me flavored coffee. It was a pre-ground flavored coffee because it was super big in the Russian market, and they're like, "Hey, try this," because we're doing a lot of this business in Russia. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with creme brulee flavored, And you said, put it in the pressurized portafilter. I had, I think, 6 espresso machines at the time. And you said, pick one of those Sages that you've got. I think I used a Sage Bambino Plus, put it in the pressurized portafilter there. And you were absolutely right. It made pretty good coffee. It is possible.
You can make actually quite good coffee. The pressurized portafilter will help you. It will be your friend, and it will get you towards the espresso. Then once you get good at that, because there is other variables you have to learn, tamping properly, making it even. For us now that we've been doing it for a long time, it's something that comes second nature. It's very easy. Yeah, I'm gonna go there and I don't even think about it. But the first time you do it, it's awkward. Is it level? Am I gonna stress over it? How much should I put? How much should I grind? Way in, way out.
So that Gaggia Paros that you're talking about, that comes with it's set up with 15 bars of pressure.
Yes, all of the Gaggias that you buy off the shelf, new, they all come out with 15 bar. Don't know why. However, the Paros is an old version of the Classic, so it actually has an overpressure valve that you can adjust. So you can actually modify that, but you need then to buy a gauge. You need to determine what is your pressure. It's a bit of a faff. There are people that do that. There are kits available that you can buy already set up. It wouldn't be for that particular machine because it's for the Gaggia Classic Pro, and it wouldn't fit in the Paros because it's an older model from the 2000, I think. So it's an old machine.
And so you'd get the Paros with a pressurized portafilter, and
its own grinder.
And it's got its own grinder, so you're set up and ready to go. How much do those cost if you can find them?
If you can find them, you find them on a range between 120-ish to 150. It's not.
It's a very good price. It's very cheap. You got a lot of money left over to buy coffee.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually has its own crappy tamper in the machine. It's not something that comes off. It's just one of those that you press against. But it's okay. It is okay.
Well, let me jump back then and talk about my next thing. Because I've now blown 250 pounds. I've got 100 pounds left of my budget. Here's what I would buy next. I would go and I would buy since we're talking about tampers, I found this tamper which is now remember, because we're using a Sage machine, which is a Breville in the US,
Yeah.
that they have those 53 mil. It's 53 or 54.
54.
Yeah,
Three.
anyway, so you can get this
I-
in 53 or 54 mil. You want to get it right up as close as possible. You don't want to be leaving gaps. You don't want to be using a 53 mil tamper in a 54 mil basket, because you'll leave a small gap around the side
Mhm.
where water will run. So get the right size, but you can get them in different sizes. And this Rhino one, it's down to 19 pounds and 99p. Now, as you pointed out, my Sage Barista Express comes with the tamper.
And it's
I've
actually
used that.
a pretty good tamper, that one, and it feels good in the hand. It's not very
Which one?
awkward.
The Sage
The one
one.
in the Sage, in the barista.
Awful. What are you talking about?
It's
You were taking
plasticky,
drugs. You were
but
taking drugs at the time.
no, it's plasticky, but
Now
it's
I
okay.
know that you're seriously whacked out on drugs half the time, Max, because that is an awful tamper. What are you? It's terrible.
How is a good tamper good?
Well, okay. So first of all, it has to fit perfectly, right? So it has to fit, and it does fit. So it kind of, you can do the job with it. But here's the
Mhm.
thing for me. You know that for me, and I think for a lot of people doing this, they're going to want to enjoy the experience. And picking up that little piece of plastic, which weighs about the same as a paper clip,
Yeah,
and trying to tamp with a paperclip weight thing, there's just it doesn't feel nice. It's not nice. It's like taking a shower, getting out, and then drying yourself with the cheapest wet towel, right?
true.
Yes,
As long as it gets you
both will get the
dry.
job done.
Mhm.
But imagine that you now got a 1,000 thread Egyptian cotton, towel, pampered and warm, and how great that feels getting out the shower versus the soggy wet tea towel that you got as an alternative. Both will get the
Absolutely.
job done. I'm just saying, for 20 quid, I've got my 350 quid. You can't stop me. I've got my 350 quid budget, and I'm going to spend it on 19 pounds on this improved tamper. Okay.
Absolutely fine. I'm with you on that one, but it's unnecessary already.
Did I share the screen and show this? I think I did not. Let me go and show the one I'm talking about. So you can take a look at this.
That's
And
actually
compare
very
that.
similar to the
Do you
to
see
that
that
one.
little piece of plastic that's
Yeah, but
in
it's
there?
metal at the bottom.
Hmm?
It's metal at the bottom.
I don't know if it is metal.
Yeah, it is metal.
Well, I know it's sort of metal. It's one of
No,
those metals that you just
It's
think.
metal, and it's metal at the top because it's a magnet that holds it in.
There we go.
So
That's
that looks very similar to it.
No, it's not. I've used these runners before. This is not the heaviest tamper you can get. Of
Mhm.
course, it's not the best tamper you can get for 19
No, I mean
pounds and
they are
99p.
okay, obviously. But you don't necessarily need it.
It's a big step up. I'm just saying, as part of your overall experience, to make this a pleasant experience and get you hooked.
yeah, true.
I've got the money to spend. That's what I'm going to do with it. Now, it could be, Max, that if you spend a bit more than 250 quid, because you can't find one like that. Now, I'm also hoping, this guy says 250. I'm going to get down there. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to be like, oh, it's a bit, yeah, 250 is going to be a bit of a stretch for this machine. I would get him down at least another, 15 or 20 quid off.
At least,
And
yeah.
At least, right? So you're really talking, and I'm going at the price he's put there, 250. I'd be hoping to get it for 230 or 225 or something like that. I'll bring it out and say cash, because that makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. But people like the sound of it. I'd rustle it in front of his face, like.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I just remembered, that it came natural to me, but then I just remembered it. If you buy a Gadget, you open yourself to a lot of potential next machines without having to change all of your gear, namely the tamper and the level.
Because you got the 58 mil. Now
Exactly.
I am very aware of that. I think you've just picked on the Achilles heel in my strategy, which I was hoping you'd miss. It is true. You're locked in. Although, Max, do you remember that machine that we really liked, and we, including you, that really liked when we were reviewing machines, and that had a 54 mil doohickey?
The
Vivaldi. The one, the Vivaldi.
Is it 54?
It was 50 whatever. It wasn't
I
a
think it was
58.
like something strange, like 52 or something.
No. It was either 53 or 54, and it's probably the same as the Sage. I think it was the same as the Sage, and so it could be that you upgrade to that, and that actually is a wonderful upgrade.
Oh yeah,
path.
that would be amazing.
Seriously good upgrade path, right?
Yeah, true.
For not a whole lot of money either. You can find them secondhand if you remember what it is that we actually said, which was the what, Max?
It's the Vivaldi.
The Vivaldi 2. There's a few of them, aren't there?
Yeah.
Who makes it? What's the machine name company?
That's
Because
I'm trying to remember.
the model number is Vivaldi, but who makes it, Max?
La Spaziale.
La Speciale. Oh, thank God.
I
was actually, it was killing me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you actually have got an
machine.
upgrade path. So my Achilles heel is slightly less of an Achilles heel.
Slightly, but it's still
It's still you're much more limited, right? Absolutely, I do accept that. So now you've only spent 200 spondoolies maybe.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the rest of your money?
Well, for example, I would stick to a Gadja, and I was looking at them, and I would actually probably, if I want a new machine, I would probably get one of the ones that doesn't have the three-way valve, because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make your coffee better to have a three-way valve.
Sucks the water out the puck, makes your puck easier to empty.
It doesn't really matter. Doesn't.
I don't like a soggy puck. I use a paintbrush to get my coffee ground after I knock it out to get the remaining. If it's soggy,
I rinse
my
it
paintbrush gets.
I rinse it under the
dirty.
sink, under the water. I just give it a bit of a rinse and then.
Yeah, but my coffee machine is 2 steps from my sink, and what happens is you wash it out under the sink. As you walk those 2 steps back, you drip it all over the floor.
You're plumbed in, right?
And that's another.
You can actually use.
Not
you
plumbed in yet.
Yeah, okay. But once you're plumbed in, you can actually use the hot water spout for what it's designed for. Anyway, we're digressing.
I don't actually switch that boiler on, so I wouldn't be able to.
We're digressing. Does it come from that boiler, or does it come from the other?
It comes from the steam
boiler?
boiler. I'm pretty sure.
That's silly. Anyway, doesn't matter. The coffee machine, we have it. So I would actually go probably for if you can't find the Paros, because they are actually very rare, that there's not many around, and the few that are around, the people don't sell them because they're actually very good machines. If you can't find a Paros, you can get a Gadja Classic, and you can normally find them for 100-ish, 120 pounds.
Yeah, in pretty bad shape, 120 pounds. You're going to spend 200 plus.
That's the issue. Sometimes you find them. It depends, really. It depends. There was a period where you could find them. I mean, people would throw them at your back.
Yeah, there was.
It was like a couple of years ago. Then before we started talking good about them, it's our fault.
We pushed. It's either us or the pandemic pushed the prices up. I'm not sure which it was.
And I mean, you would find Gadja Classics. Yeah, I have 100 pounds. Oh yeah, here, have 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then you can actually pay someone 50 pounds to descale it and clean it and tune it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know at least one person that would do that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so you get one of those, or you can get a new one, but not a Gadja Classic, because that's like 400 pounds. Mad. You can get a Gadja Evolution or a Gadja Espresso, one of the ones that don't have the fancy 3-way valve. It's absolutely fine. It will have a pressurized portafilter. It will have the same boiler as the Gadja Classic. It will make the same kind of steam as the Gadja Classic. So in theory, you can make a very nice cappuccino. You can make very nice latte art if you really want to. You can learn that. You can learn to make good tasting coffee. And you can also modify that to add an overpressure valve, and you can put it at 9 bar, and that will take you all the way to professional tasting coffee. And then you can decide, okay, I like this game, and you upgrade into a big coffee machine. So we have those. Let's say we spent about 200 pounds on it. We have 150 pounds left.
Mm-hmm.
With 150 pounds left, I would try to spend 100 pounds on the grinder.
Right.
if you don't have a grinder, because you can probably find an old Rancilio Rocky, which is a capable grinder. It can do good coffee, the good grind. You can try to find a Gaggia MDF, which is also a very capable grinder that I used to have. That's a flat burr grinder. You can find those for 100 to 150 pounds. And the tamper. And that's all you need really to start. And you can actually get started, but I would actually compromise in what you get. And that gives you more or less a feel for what
you can do quite a lot with that, right?
Yeah, you can
do quite
learn.
a lot.
You
can do quite
learn.
a lot with it. Well, so basically, just to sum up your package, you would go for one of the Gaggias, the Paris if you can find it, or one of the other Gaggias that comes with a without the three-way solenoids. And when we're talking about a three-way solenoid, that may be foreign language to some people. Well, just go and take a look on the features, and you'll see that a lot of, if the machine has it, they'll really tout it like it's a big deal. But all a three-way solenoid does, it's like it sucks. Basically, it's a valve that when the pressure is created inside the basket, when the water's being pushed through the coffee, at the end of it, there's a valve and it opens up and all that pressure is released, which basically sucks the water out and away, leaving you with a dry puck that you can easily, knock out into a knock box. And as Max says, you don't need that. I personally like having a dry puck, but you're absolutely right in that that's a sort of that's a sacrifice that you can actually easily discard and make if you're going to get a better overall package. So that's what you'd go for. Then you'd go and put the rest of the money into a separate grinder, and probably put most of the money there, and you'd work with that. I think that's it's a very intellectual approach to it. I've got a slightly more mainstream approach, which I'm going to go share my screen again and talk about some of the other things that I would get. So my package is stuff that you can definitely get. Like you could go searching for all this stuff today, tonight, tomorrow, and you would find it, like almost for sure. Even the Sage Barista Express. The reason I picked that particular model is because it's the no frills version, and there's a lot of them around. There's a lot of them around. You're bound to find one. If you don't find one at that price point and the condition that you like, wait a couple of days and you'll find another one on the market. So the next thing I was going to pick out was actually I would go for a coffee distributor. So you can get these in 53 mils as well. I'd actually put this in as a higher priority over the tamper even. I think what you can do with these distribution tools is you can spin the top up and down and lock them into place so that metal part protruding at the bottom is deeper. And that means you can kind of tamp a little bit. You can get it, but you can push down. So you're not just skimming the top of the coffee, but you're compressing the coffee a little bit and then distributing it. And doing that, if you see, there's been a number of videos made by some very respected sort of coffee roasters and that lot who are running tests showing that the distribution is way more important to the extraction than tamping. So I'd actually get this first. It's a tenner, for God's sakes, it's 10 pounds. So I've now spent 250 or less, if I can haggle the guy, on the machine. I've spent 19 pounds and 99p on the tamper. And I've now spent another tenner on the coffee distribution tool. And I've got Prime, so I get free delivery. So I've added up, what's that, 280 odd quid. Yeah, something like that, 280. Yeah, about 280 pounds. So what would I spend the rest on? Well, interestingly, I would actually go for a second grinder. And the reason I'd go for a second grinder is for two things. First of all, I think those Sage grinders, the grinders that come with the Sage machine, are actually decent, especially if you set them up right. They're not going to set the world on fire, but they're decent. But you can be so much more flexible with a hand grinder. You're not going to necessarily want to adjust that the beans in that hopper. Like once you've got the beans in the hopper, like the way you'll find it. I know this can technically work a different way, but if you end up doing what I'm doing, which you will do because it's like it's the laziest, least kind of effort route, is you throw beans into the hopper. You're not going to do single shots with that hopper. You're not going to do you're not going to put just enough beans into that hopper to do one shot, because the way that those grinders work is they need to have a certain amount of beans in them to push them through and to give the gravity and so forth.
Yeah.
So what I tend to do is I tend to have it set up and dialed in for a particular coffee in that hopper. And then I have a separate hand grinder, which I play with. That's what the one that I'll play with different grind sizes and different extractions. I've also got different baskets. So I'll try different baskets, different amounts, different quantities, different grind sizes. And I'll do that all with a hand grinder. So I've got the ultimate flexibility of not messing up the grind settings on my hopper, so that when your partner or son or whoever comes down and wants to make a coffee, that they're angry because you've been playing with the grind settings and now you can't remember how to set it back again. And you've got a separate hand grinder that you can be creative with. This hand grinder is 59 pounds. It's not, again, in terms of quality of materials, it's not the best, but the results that you'll get with it are pretty damn decent. And all the reports I've heard back from people that I know who own one are very happy with it. So I would pair these two together. It also means that if you do get rid of the Sage Barista Express or Breville in the future, that you can keep that hand grinder. And that hand grinder comes in useful if you're traveling or if you want to make pour overs or get into other types of coffees. So that would be the next thing I do. That adds 60 pounds. So I've got the Sage Barista Express. I've got the coffee distributor. That's 250 plus 10. That's 260. I've got the tamper plus another 20. That's 280. I add this in there. I'm at 340. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm actually at 388. Sorry, 338, because there's a couple quid off there. But I'm okay. Who's counting exactly? If I was going to stretch just a little bit more, just an extra 5 quid, if I can knock that guy down by 5 pounds, I would then also get some of these third wave water, because I think it would be, again, fascinating to those who are getting into coffee to be making some coffee and then to use some third wave water, which basically, instead of buying a peak water filter, you're using these tablets inside your water tank, and that will set the water up to be optimal or reasonably optimal for extracting coffee. And I'd like you to try without these, and then without changing anything else, to try with these in the water and see what a difference it makes, because it's quite noticeable. And that would be my setup for 350 quid. I think that's a pretty decent setup.
Yeah, I was actually looking for Gaja Evolution because they don't make it anymore. So I found one on eBay. Starting bid is 50 pounds. And I found also another one still on eBay where the starting bid is 35 pounds. So that's pretty good. You can probably get them for about 100-ish, 120. And those are very good machines. They're like the Gajas, the normal Gaja. And accidentally, I stumbled upon a Gaja XD, which is a dual group head for 120.
Oh, okay. Wow. I don't think you need the dual group head. Don't get people into,
Well, it needs to be refurbished. I am looking at it.
Do you know anyone that does that, Max?
Huh?
Do you know anyone that does that refurbishment?
I don't know. I know a guy.
I know a guy. All right. So that's what we would do.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know, what others would do. This is, how everyone says this because they want you to comment really below and it pushes their YouTube stats up. But I actually genuinely would be really interested.
If you had 350 pounds,
if you've got 350 pounds and you're in America, you're obviously screwed because that's not legal tender.
No, exactly.
But if you've got 350 pounds in the UK, or you've got $500 in America, or, wherever you're at, if you're in Poland, you'd have Lex. Is it Lex or?
No idea.
So, whatever it is in your local currency, I'd be interested to know what you would buy. Because I just found this a fascinating. I found this a fascinating exercise. What's available? A lot of machines have gone up in price over the course of the pandemic. Things that were cheap are now less cheap. So it's become a bit of a
Rip-off.
challenge and a rip off. Yeah, for some things. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, would you be able to get anything new? Would you try to get anything new? Is it worth it?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know if there is a new thing that I'm talking espresso now. So nobody comes in and goes, I can get a Kalita Wave or something like that. That's not the
Well,
same
yeah,
thing.
I mean, I could get a
I'll get a
mocha pot for
mocha
20
pot.
pounds.
I'll get my AeroPress and I can make espresso with that. And it's no, you can't. So
It's not espresso, it's aeropresso.
It's AirPresso. So yeah, do that. Next week, keep an eye out on bartalks.net because we are releasing that interview with Massimiliano Pogliani, the CEO of Illy Coffee, talking about their journey to something called B Corp certification, which you're going to hear more and more about it. Everyone talks about ESG, but basically it's their commitment to being an ethical company and sort of what they had to do to go through to do that in a very transparent way, you know, the way they have to report it and what it means and all that kind of stuff. But it's also just, to me, it's just interesting to talk to the CEO of a big company like that. And you know, I asked him the question. Here's a thing for you. He was Oracle World. Do you know Oracle, the software company?
Mm-hmm.
He was at Oracle World a few years ago, and they had an Illy coffee stand there, and he was waiting in line. And I wanted to, did you really wait in line, Max? Or did he go to the front? He's like, no, I waited in line. I waited in line. I was like, okay. Did Larry Ellison wait in line, or did he go? And he avoided that question, I think. You know, Larry Ellison's the CEO of Oracle. And if you don't know who Larry Ellison is, he's got a reputation for being a bit of an egomaniac, a bit of a psychopath. There was a book written about him called The Difference Between God and Larry Ellison. And then in subtitle, it's God Doesn't Think He's Larry Ellison. Might give an insight into this guy.
Wow.
I asked him, I said, did Larry jump the queue? I don't think he answered. Anyway, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
It was a very intellectually stimulating session, Max. Thank you very much, as always. Thank you for putting a shirt on for the podcast. That's much appreciated. And I will see you next week, sir. We're going to talk about coffee next week. Maybe next week, let's talk about some of the coffee we're drinking, because I've been drinking some great coffees.
Yeah, me too, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, being a coffee podcast, we should do that from once in a while.
Yeah, I think we should probably do it every now and then.
All right, my friend. You take care.
Right. See you.